Lian Shu never thought that this could happen to him. He was supposed to die, but he was reborn in a place called Dashan. Everyone knows that life is cruel, unfair, and full of dangers. But Lian Shi is not one to resign himself to his fate. Shi, what are you doing? Someone's voice breaks the peaceful silence of the sunny day. The guy to whom this phrase is intended looks thoughtfully into the distance, deep in his thoughts. He looks around as if he is seeing this place for the first time. Silly girl, what are you looking at? The question is heard again. Turning around at the sound of the voice, Lian Shi is surprised to see his father. The man laughs at such a slow reaction. He asks his son to go with him to help him pull out the recently set net. Father promises that it will definitely be fun. As if coming to his senses, Shi happily rushes after his father. They climb into the boat and swim quite quickly to the set nets. The fishing is actually quite fun, although Shi wasn't too happy when a crab bit him right on the thumb. Together with their father, they cook freshly caught fish over a fire and eat it with gusto, choking a couple of times on particularly small bones. After eating their fill, they carve their own faces and names into the wood with a knife. During the fun, the whole day passes unnoticed by both of them, and it begins to get dark. Shi and his father sit on the edge of the boat, admiring the beginning of the sunset. The boy's attention is drawn to a quiet splash somewhere nearby, and he turns around. "Red carp!" he cries out joyfully. Without a moment's hesitation, Shi jumps off the boat and dives in. Paddling with all his might, he goes deeper and deeper in an attempt to catch a red carp. But at some point, the guy realizes that the fish has quietly disappeared somewhere. Moreover, no other fish come into his field of vision, and it seems as if all living things have disappeared from this place. Lian Shi tries to swim back up, but realizes that his entire body is immobilized and he cannot move. Before he loses consciousness, he only manages to think about his father, who remains upstairs. Shi comes to his senses with his hands tied. Looking down on him from above is a pleased Ban Xin and Lord Jiang. "What are you doing?" the guy asks, already realizing that he's gotten into more trouble. It turns out that he was lured here to be used as bait for a water monster. She slept peacefully right in this boat while these two guarded him. Ban Xin smirked contentedly as he looked at the confused boy. She realizes that it was just another dream. He arrived in this world a month ago and took over this body because its original owner died of illness. The body's owner's mother died in childbirth, so he grew up with his father. Unfortunately, his father passed away 3 months ago, and the boy had never experienced such emotions as the owner of the body kept in his heart. Last month, before he fully understood who he was, Shi fell for Jiang's trick and became bait for a spirit monster. This is how he learned that there are paranormal things in this world. People are able to achieve incredible success through cultivation, and such people are called martial arts masters here. However, not only people are capable of self-improvement, but even animals. "It's here!" Lord Jean shouts loudly. The water monster they had been waiting for had finally arrived. She looks around sharply to see the monster he's about to become bait for. The monster's dimensions are several times larger than the boat's. Even under the thickness of water, the water monster looks huge and powerful. Lord Jian is horrified by such size. He was told that this monster was only half the size of a human. And the closer the monster swims to the boat, the more the Lord begins to panic. But even though he was feeling fear and horror, Jian had been waiting for this moment for many years. He is preparing to deliver a blow that contains 10 years of diligent training. "Can you survive this?" The Lord grins, confident in his victory over the monster. As soon as the water monster approaches the boat and opens its mouth wide, the Lord rushes to attack. To the horror of everyone else, the monster swallows the boy in just one bite, along with half of the wooden boat. Ban Xin, who didn't expect this, screams at the top of his lungs in fear, while Shai clings to the remains of the boat with all his might to avoid falling into the water. "I can't die here," the man screams. He turns to Shai, and the boy realizes that things are bad. With a swing, the man thrusts the dagger straight into Shu's hand, which he was holding onto the rest of the boat. Screaming in pain, the boy unclenches his injured hand and falls down. He holds his breath and mentally prays for help, trying to loosen the ropes that restrict his movements even a little. In desperation, he bites into them with his teeth and finally frees his hands. But this will not help him in any way because the monster is already approaching him. The pitiful remnants of air in Lian Shi's lungs, burning with pain, run out and consciousness begins to slowly leave him. The guy begins to see the blurry silhouette of his father right in front of him, demanding that he wake up immediately. She realizes that these are just hallucinations of his dying brain. How wonderful it would be if this were true and father was really there. Shai reaches forward, trying to grab his father's outstretched hand, and at some point he actually succeeds. He grabs his father's wrist, which turns out to be a piece of the boat. the same part they carved funny faces into together. With a sharp jerk, the young man still emerges from the water, continuing to hold onto the piece of wood to stay on the surface. He looks around in horror, finding many more parts of the destroyed boat. Before the guy has time to understand anything, he is pulled back under the water again. She reaches his hand up in a futile attempt to touch the boat wreck again. The huge water monster doesn't give him the slightest chance to escape. Consciousness begins to slip away from the boy again. And what he regrets most now is that he couldn't save his father's boat. He tried very hard and did everything he could. But now it seems like none of it matters. The monster pulls him to the very bottom and throws him down sharply, causing the guy to fall right onto the sand, strewn with other people's bones. The monster's mouth opens wide and its eyes begin to glow even more intensely and furiously. Rows of dagger-like teeth appeared right in front of Shi's face, dripping poisonous saliva. The air in his lungs ran out and the young man lost consciousness again. An unusual chest rose from the bottom of the pond, above which appeared the spirit of the Lord of the Pool Hua, capable of awakening powerless and weak creatures. These streams resolutely rushed towards the young man, enveloping his entire limp body. The chest glowed even brighter, and the system began to activate and connect to Shi's body. The guy slowly began to regain consciousness, despite the complete lack of air. When he finally came to, he panicked, thinking that he was still dying. The last thing he remembers is a terrible monster that was about to devour him. Remembering that he is still in the water, the boy begins to wave his arms, trying to get to the surface. Suddenly, he realizes that the resistance has disappeared and he can walk on water as if on land. A glowing sign appears right before his eyes, notifying him that he has acquired the active skill, Water Flow Control. She realizes that he can not only control the flow of water, but even breathe calmly. How is this even possible? He screams to himself. What's even more surprising is the fact that all of his wounds magically healed and disappeared. While studying his new abilities, Shi completely forgot about the water monster, so he completely misses the moment when the monster sneaks up from behind and attacks. Shi screams in fear and closes his eyes, covering his face with his hands in horror. When, after a few seconds, he realizes he is still alive, the boy hesitantly opens one eye. The monster in front of him finds himself bound by multiple streams of water. The game window appears again, and Shi realizes that it is the same system as in the comics he read. Now he understands that nothing limits him in the water. Moreover, he can even control it. However, this control has its limits, and the monster can still be freed with some effort. The monster growls furiously, becoming even more angry. The monster lunges forward, trying to grab the guy's leg with its teeth again. Shi successfully dodges, but knows that at this rate he won't last long. Suddenly, the system notifies that the skill, Bloody Sign of Subordination, has been received. Thanks to him, Shi will be able to draw an ancient rune with his own blood to make a contract with the water monster. Shi is definitely going to put this skill to use. But in order to do this, you first need to catch the water monster. Water flow control. The guy screams and directs water flows at the monster to deprive it of the ability to move so actively. The monster opens its mouth wider, growling loudly in rage. He lunges forward, intending to bite off at least one of the guy's limbs. A deep wound appears on Shi's palm, from which bright red drops of blood immediately begin to spread in all directions, forming runes. The guy presses his hand to the scales of the water monster, and it begins to glow with a fiery red flame. The monster lunges forward, but Shi grabs one of its fins with both hands and is pulled in after the monster. Is this how magic manifests itself? The boy thinks, clenching his teeth with effort. His eyes begin to be covered with a black veil with bright streaks of fire. Memories of the deceased previous owner of this body flash through his head. Shi realizes that he really wants to live. "Pathetic monster, submit to me!" the boy screams, squeezing the burning palm on the monster's neck tighter. The next moment, an exhausted Shi is already climbing out of the water onto the shore. He gulps in air greedily, glad that he was able to survive. Immediately behind him, a water monster slowly appears from the water. The guy rises and sits up, looking with pride at the huge monster that he was somehow able to subdue. He orders the disgruntled monster to return back into the water, promising to call him if he is needed. After the rune was placed, a spiritual channel was formed between them, through which he could contact the monster from anywhere in the world. The guy gets up from the cool grass and decides it's time to go eat and go to bed. Luckily, he still has some memories left in his head and he will be able to find his home. The monster obediently dives into the water. Smoothly sinking to the bottom, he too returns home. Morning comes and the villagers begin to go about their daily business in the main square. Ban Xin, smiling obsequiously, leads Lord Zheng, who is Lord Jiao's servant, to Shi's house. The villagers who notice them immediately understand that Shi will be in trouble. One of the guys named Lee Lebo is the most saddened by this. He looks at the departing company with disappointment. Ban Xin mentally rubs his hands, getting ready to take all the belongings of the guy he thought was dead. All that remains is to confirm that the mission failed. It's all because of that weakling Jiang, the man thinks sullenly. He resolutely approaches the door of Shu's house and kicks it down with one movement of his foot. "Mr. Jen, please come in." The man begins to fawn, but as soon as he turns around, all the joy and anticipation instantly disappears from his face. He points his finger at the yawning Shu with an indignant cry. The guy smiles sleepily back at him, asking what they are all doing here. "Are you alive?" Ban Xin continues to scream. Behind him, he hears Zheng calling him stupid in disappointment. "Mr. Zheng, it's Lian Shu." Ban Xin laughs a little nervously. The gloomy man remarks how lucky this guy is to have survived and not become bait for the monster. At this time, Ban Xin mentally calls the boy the rudest words. Zheng, without thinking any further, gives the order to capture Shai. The servants grab the bewildered guy by the shoulders and drag him towards the exit. He tries to resist but gets punched in the stomach. Ban Xin tells the young man with a chuckle that Lord Jiao hired martial artist Zhang to deal with the monster that is poisoning the villagers. And it turns out that she somehow made a deal with the monster and killed their savior. The guy replies that everything was wrong and that they kidnapped him to use him as bait for the monster. "Because of you, Mr. Zhang died, and you still dare to come back, monster?" Ban Xin shouts over him. She remembers that this is what he was called in his past life. There he was an outcast, whom every person he met tried to hurt. He was an orphan, and received a ton of ridicule and bullying every day. Everyone around him was convinced that orphans constantly steal. She just looked at these people in silence, internally burning with hatred and resentment. "Attack if you are not afraid." Then one of his offenders laughed. It was then that Shu was nicknamed a monster because he was unstoppable. And now the guy decides that although it is quite risky to demonstrate his abilities, giving up is also not his style. So he suddenly lunges forward, breaking free from the other man's hands, and headbutts Ban Xin right in the stomach. In response, the man kicks the guy with all his might, throwing him away from himself. Shai is determined to fight to the end, even if it means becoming a real monster. He will tear to pieces everyone who dared to attack him today. Ban Xin suggests that Mr. Zheng tie up this crazy person and take him to the Jiao estate. There is a shortage of people there, and such an orphan would be perfect. Zheng smirks and offers the guy to become Lord Zhao's adopted son, and then they will let him go, otherwise they will break his legs. There are rumors that those who were adopted into this estate disappeared without a trace, and recently quite a lot of people have disappeared there. Who dares to hurt little Aishi? Suddenly, a menacing cry is heard. This is the village chief that Li Libo brought. Zheng doesn't have time to say a word. "I am actually a legitimate servant of the Da Shang dynasty. Do you want to attack a government official?" The village chief shouts in anger. Zheng realizes that trouble has begun. The headman continues to shout, threatening everyone with a heart attack that he will definitely have if they do not leave the boy alone right now. What a decrepit old man. Zheng cursed in his mind. He decides not to argue with the crazy old man today, but promises that Lord Jiao will not let it go so easily. With this, he heads for the exit along with his servants. In the end, the man manages to say that Shu is as ungrateful as his father was. Finally, the two companies part ways. The headman begins to scold Aishi and explain that some conflicts are best avoided in order to avoid serious consequences. Li Libo disperses the crowd of onlookers gathered near the house and leads the headman outside. Shai understands that this could happen in the future. He watches the departing headman and thinks that next time he might not be there. The guy decides that he absolutely must become stronger, and the emerging system is his chance. As if reading his mind, the notification window appears again, stating that another water entity has been found. That same evening, the young man returns to the water again. After receiving the crocodile Tahua, he can contact him via telepathic channel at any time. So she mentally summons the monster and freezes in anticipation. He looks closely at the water, and after a while the monster emerges, creating a large wave. But to the boy's great surprise, only a small crocodile, no taller than his knees, jumps out onto the shore. "Where did the giant crocodile go?" the boy screams. The system immediately tells him that the subordinate aquatic creatures can change size to control the energy they consume. Now everything is clear, and Shuri admires the incredibly clever system. The guy remembers the recent notification about the discovery of a water entity. He asks the crocodile to show where he found this very essence, and together they dive into the water. Shai swims after the monster, trying not to lose sight of it for long. It looks like the crocodile led him to some kind of grotto. Swimming closer, Shai looks inside. What he sees there seems simply incredible to him. Apparently, right in front of him, there are legendary spiritual plants scattered along the bottom of the pond. The system again suggests that these plants have an aquatic essence. This means that the master can easily absorb them. In this world, there are plants and treasures that are saturated with various energies. These are what are called spiritual plants. Rumor has it that there is a pond in the backyard of the Jiao estate where unusual water lilies grow. They attract cultivators, who in turn become Lord Jiao's subordinates. She is very curious about how much water essence he will be able to extract from these spiritual plants. He turns to the crocodile in the hope that it will help him collect the plants. But this lazy guy is sleeping peacefully with his belly up and clearly has no intention of helping. Having collected all the plants, the guy emerges onto the nearest surface and carefully folds them. Finally, he whispers softly, holding the tied plants in his hands. He takes his first bite, and the system immediately informs him that he has received the water essence. The guy's eyes light up from the wonderful taste he feels. He attacks the plants with unprecedented enthusiasm. And only after he has eaten every last crumb, he, full and satisfied, takes a breath. The system offers him a merger with a water spirit and the evolution of a pet monster. Without thinking twice, the guy chooses the second option. Immediately, he feels himself becoming stronger. With this power, he could definitely defeat those guys. Now he weighs 45 kilograms. The young man's body cannot accept any more energy at the moment. Now he needs to think about how to deal with money problems because winter is coming soon. The crocodile will go into hibernation and will not be able to help anymore. At this time, the little monster throws a large fish to the surface next to its owner. Seeing this, Shu has a brilliant idea. He happily picks up the crocodile in his arms. Now the guy will be able to earn some money by selling fish. The next morning, he immediately goes to the market and sells this fish for 80 coins. It's not much, but at least it's something. Now the financial problem is temporarily solved. All that remains is to figure out what to do with this madman, Ban Xinjian. Before the guy could finish his thought, the aforementioned madman appeared right behind him. With a fake smile, Ban Xin convinces the guy that there was just a misunderstanding between them, and he would like to apologize. His boat is nearby, so why doesn't Shai go and have lunch with him? He promises the guy that there will be only the two of them on the boat. Lian Shu, who immediately sensed the falsehood and, anticipating the outcome of events, smiles. With a polite smile, he agrees to go into Ban Xin's boat. Just recently, Ban Xin had to endure a difficult conversation with Zhen. Lately, the tests at the estate have not been going too well, and several people have already died. There aren't enough medicinal herbs for everyone, and since Lian Shu is an orphan, that makes him an ideal candidate. Ban Xin promises his master that he will bring the boy tomorrow. Zheng promises him that if he succeeds, Lord Jiao will put in a good word for him with the big shots. This immediately delights Ban Xin, who believes in him. Now he will do everything in his power to bring the boy to the Lord. If everything works out, he will be able to become immortal. Finally, I can do it. He bursts into mad laughter, tearing his shirt. The man laughs out loud, as if not noticing that his entire body is covered with strange sores and scratches. And now, he finally managed to lure the boy onto his boat. The scenery here is magnificent, and the solitude of the place is very beneficial. Ban Xin suggests that they have some food and resolve all their differences by discreetly adding something to the pot of food. She asks if he is sure that there is no one here at all. Of course, Ban Xin is confident. He personally checked everything. He doesn't need extra ears that might hear the boy's screams after he drinks that fish soup. Excellent, Lian Shu says and stands up. To Ban Xin's great surprise, magical currents began to appear around the boy's body. The man doesn't even have time to express indignation before his entire face is already covered by these streams. His head ends up in a water cocoon and he begins to choke and lose consciousness. The last thing the man sees is Lian Shu leaning over him. After a few hours, he regains consciousness and opens his eyes with great difficulty. He immediately realizes that he is bound by strong and durable ropes. Lian Shu remarks with a chuckle that he sleeps like a baby. "What do you want from me?" Ban Xin exclaimed in panic. Lian Shu shows him a bag of money that he found on Ban Xin himself. Apparently, he was paid well to bring Shu here. Looking around, Ban Xin realizes that Lian Shu brought him to the very place where the water monster attacked them back then. And at that very moment, a huge crocodile emerges from the pond right behind Lian Shu. The man looks at the monster with horror, mentally saying goodbye to life. She tells him that it used to be a water monster, but now it is his beloved pet. Ban Xin screams in horror that Shu himself is a real monster, and as if frightened by his own words, he begins to bow quickly, loudly promising to tell Shar everything he knows. The guy immediately asks why Mr. Zheng wanted to lure him to the Jiao family estate so much and why people disappear there. It turns out that all these people are needed so that the owner of the estate can become immortal. A sad fate awaits all who enter, as Jiao extracts the pearls of immortality from them without the slightest pity. She realizes that Ban Xin himself brought innocent people to their deaths. The man breaks out in a sweat as he tries to convince the boy that he was actually forced to do all this. But eventually he gets rude, and Shai reacts in the same second. With a good swing, he strikes, splitting the man's skull with a small stone. Ban Xin had already seen through his monstrous nature. If she hadn't killed him, he himself would have been dragged into the estate and made into one of those pearls. And now, while he is gaining strength, he needs to find something that can protect him. Without a drop of pity or regret, Shai throws the man's corpse into the water. The guy doesn't see how his body begins to swell. Several days pass, and one fine morning, a crane flying past settles comfortably on the edge of the boat. Lianshu's hand appears from the water. He grabs the side and scares the bird away. The guy gets completely out of the water and climbs into the boat. On his shoulder is a bag full of fish and a small crocodile. 3 days have passed since Ban Xin's murder. And in order not to arouse suspicion, Shi pretends to be a fisherman for everyone. As for the boat, he said that Ban Xin had given it to him as an apology, and after that he had disappeared somewhere. But Lord Zhao's people won't believe this story so easily. Sooner or later, Ban Xin's disappearance would definitely lead them to Shi. He needs to become stronger, and the fastest way is to join a martial arts temple. There are 3 such clans in Pingyang, and the strongest of them is the Yang clan. Rumor has it that their leader has achieved such unprecedented strength that he can easily crush gold and cut stones. If Shi could join them, the Jiao family wouldn't dare touch him again. But the entry fee is between 5 and 8 liang, and at the moment the guy only has 2. Looks like he'll have to find another way to make money. Since the last upgrade, Shai feels his body becoming stronger and his mental power seems to be growing as well. Perhaps now he will be able to control 2 creatures at the same time. Moving in water is becoming more and more familiar. He invites Tahua to swim race. Lately, the guy has been training like this a lot. The current he twists under his foot pushes him out, giving him momentum. However, this requires increased control, so he gets tired faster. The guy continues to swim forward and suddenly notices some shadow to the side of him. What was that? Lianshu looks around in surprise and finally notices the reason for his concern. This is a mystical fish. In the world of Dashan, some creatures evolved by accidentally absorbing spiritual energy. Such monsters are called mystical fish, and right now, Lianshu sees 2 such creatures, although, as a rule, it is difficult to find even one such fish. Noticing the attention of a person, the mystical fish scatter in all directions. She commands the crocodile to catch one of them. Tahua obediently rushes after her, increasing in size as he goes. The mystical fish doesn't have a single chance to escape from the water monster. Lianshu rushes after the second fish. Belatedly, he regrets not having taken a fishing net with him. But even without this, the guy is doing well. To catch the mystical fish, he uses the skill Controlling Water Flow. A second later, the fish finds itself in a dense water cocoon. The happy guy lunges forward and grabs her with both hands. He caught it! He rejoices, holding the fish in his hands. And then something huge and frightening appears behind his back. The guy, who doesn't notice this, is happy that he will be able to sell today's catch for a tidy sum. He only comes to his senses when something grabs him across the body. The stunned guy turns back. With an effort, he still manages to break free from the strong grip. The guy falls to the bottom, hitting his back painfully. Right in front of his face is a new monster with brightly glowing eyes. She recalls that he had just recently heard something about a man-eating catfish scurrying around these parts. Apparently, he was unlucky enough to stumble upon it. The guy looks at the monster in confusion as it prepares to attack. At the last moment, he manages to repel this attack with the help of water currents. It was very close. Lucky his reflexes were so fast. To save himself from the monster, the guy decides to attack. Unexpectedly, the monster manages to dodge. The guy is surprised to realize that this catfish is making fun of him. The expression on his mustachioed face is more than eloquent. Tahua appears just in time and with a powerful blow of his tail throws the monster aside. The shocked catfish doesn't have time to dodge and falls on its back. The proud crocodile smiles contentedly with his entire fanged mouth. He attacks again while the enemy has not yet had time to recover. Lianshu realizes that this is his chance. If he doesn't subdue this monster, he will definitely die today. Therefore, with the help of his blood, he draws the rune of submission. The system immediately rolls out dozens of warning messages. Lianshu's mental strength is not enough right now. and trying to subdue the water monster might cause a backlash. But the guy stubbornly continues to subdue the monster, and eventually something new appears in the catfish's gaze. After a while, the completely exhausted guy, using his last bit of strength, climbs onto the deck. Who would have thought that this catfish would resist so strongly? He almost lost control of himself and managed to develop mental overload. But the result was definitely worth it. She decides to name his new pet Chonky. Even despite the appearance of the monster, Shu still did not let go of the treasured mystical fish. Seeing his owner shaking it out onto the deck, Tahua swims closer and opens his fanged mouth, showing that he has also caught a second fish. The happy guy gently strokes his pet's scaly head, not sparing words of praise. Now his tray is chock full of regular fish and 2 mystical ones. She starts a small fire to roast one of them to see if it will increase his strength. The fish turns out to be very tasty, and very soon only a small skeleton remains. The guy decides to keep the horn of this fish as a souvenir. By eating this fish, he received a total of 18 points, which would have been the amount that would have been awarded after eating at least 18 spiritual plants. The remaining mystical fish is even larger than the previous one, and will definitely give 3 times more points, and then she will be able to raise the fusion percentage with his spirit Jieding, the water monkey, to 10. But you'll have to hold back to save up for the entry fee. Shai hopes that the fish he caught today will be enough and heads to the market. He turns his head around, a little surprised, not understanding why there are so many people here today. The festival that took place recently has already passed, so such excitement seems a little strange. As he gets closer, he understands why people are so excited. A guy named Ji Chang from the Chen family sells a mystical fish weighing just over 1 kilogram. Inspired, Shai pushes through the crowd of people, making his way closer to the merchant. "It seems that our Sanro port has been blessed by the river god," Lian Shu shouts loudly. 2 mystical fish in one day. The villagers do not understand what kind of second fish they are talking about if the boy Chen caught only 1. Lian Shi replies that he caught the second fish himself. With a victorious look, he takes out the mystical fish and proudly shows it to the villagers. After taking a closer look at the fish, people immediately start to mock Shai, convinced that it is an ordinary fish and the boy is simply trying to sell it for a higher price. Lian Shu frowned, not expecting such a reaction. Ji Chang looks at him mockingly, proudly holding his fish in his hand. "Isn't that a red blood base?" Suddenly a voice is heard. This is one of the elders of the Yang martial clan named Hu Qi. He approaches Ji Chang and asks how much his fish cost. The boy blushes and asks what price Hu Qi thinks is fair. Having learned the weight of the fish, the elder offers a whole 150 fen for it. A joyful Ji Chang immediately agrees. They are interrupted by Lian Shi, who comes closer and politely asks the elder to take a look at his fish too. The villagers continue to mock the impudent boy. "It's a bull bream," Hu Qi suddenly says. Lian Shi adds that this fish weighs a whole kilogram and 600 grams. The elder offers the amazed youth to pay 325 fen for this mystical fish. Good heavens, my family couldn't accumulate that much even in a few generations. Someone's indignant voice is heard from the crowd. Ji Chang looks at this fish with a new look, his mouth slightly open in surprise. One of the villagers chuckles to himself that Lian Shu will not live long enough to spend this money. Meanwhile, the guy successfully completes the deal. Disappointed, Ji Chang turns around and leaves. Lian Shu asks the elder to explain why the man offered twice the price for his fish as for the red-blooded perch. Hu Qi explains that the horns of the bull bream are used in medicine, making pills from them that increase stamina and help with blood stagnation. She bows gratefully, silently glad that he kept the horn from the previous fish. The sun set, painting the sky crimson and giving way to approaching dusk. Sitting comfortably on the floor, Lian Shu counts the money he earned today. Someone's shadow appears behind the guy. Li Libo suddenly puts his arm around Lian Shu's shoulders and loudly starts praising him. She remembers that he never really thanked the guy last time. "Why don't you give me these 350 fen as an apology then?" Li Libo laughs. Shu decides to ask the guy if he knows by any chance how much money it currently costs to join the Yang clan. Li Libo's father is just about to send him there. Just 350 fen are required for simple entry. But if you want to stay there, you need 500. And if she is going to stay there, eat and enjoy all the benefits, you need a whole 1,000. If you add up all the savings, Shu now has 455 fen, which means it is quite enough. He decides to go and enroll in the clan right tomorrow together with Li Libo. "Got it!" The guy laughs, giving him a friendly punch. Suddenly, Lian Shi hears an unintelligible voice telling him that he has found a mystical fish. She listens in surprise. And in the dungeon of the Jiao estate, The servant Zheng reports to the owner that Ban Xin has disappeared, and the last person to see him was the boy Lian Shi. The owner of the estate orders not to disturb him with such trifles and to deal with all the problems himself. Zheng frowned with displeasure as he watched the gentleman leave. Unaware of this conversation, Lian Shi goes to the water again. Comfortably seated in the boat, he cuts spiritual plants. Having cut them into small, even pieces, the guy throws the plants into the pot. A crocodile settled nearby, greedily inhaling the aroma of the food being prepared. Lian Shi lifts the lid to check if the dish is ready. He pours the resulting brew into a small plate and takes the first sip. Tahua and Chonky look at their happy owner with envy. Seeing their looks, the guy decides to treat the pets too and pours some soup overboard. Thanks to this dish, he received another 24 points. The influx of aquatic essence is incredible, as one would expect from a mystical fish. She promises himself to definitely look for more of these creatures. Now it's time to level up even more. The guy calls up the system window and presses the pump up button. The young man's strength begins to increase rapidly again. I wish I could fight someone right now, the guy says dreamily, feeling how his body is now filled with strength and energy. He lifts the shocked Chonky above the water to check how much his water flow control skill has increased. To evolve pets, a certain amount of points are required, and thanks to the fact that he fed them some soup, these points were reduced. Tahua requires 799 points of water essence to evolve into a horned crocodile, while Chonky requires the same amount to evolve into a tiger catfish. Lian Shi takes out that very mystical chest, wondering what kind of thing it is and who created it. On one side is depicted the yin dragon, on the second, some kind of huge monkey on the third, deities with human heads and snake bodies, and on the last, a mysterious emperor in black robes. Tomorrow, she will go to the Yang clan to become even stronger and deal with the Jiao family. It's early morning and the boy sets off on his journey with Li Libo. The two of them settle down in the cart, among someone's bags. Li Libo turns his head animatedly from side to side, admiring the beauty of nature. Lian Shi, on the other hand, is waiting for them to finally arrive in Pingyang City. Having reached the place, the guys say goodbye to the cab driver and move on. Hungry from the long journey, they stop at the nearest cafe to have a snack. The big city is full of entertainment and the guys decide to take advantage of it. With their mouths wide open, they watch the performance in the main square. At this time, several people were hiding in a nearby gateway. Is this guy really going to pass through here? One of them asks the other. He is sure that everything will be exactly like this. He heard with his own ears how Lian Shi told the boy Li Libo that he was going to enroll in the Yang clan. Yesterday, he sold some fish for 325 fen, which is a huge sum. That's why they're here today, keeping an eye on this boy. They think that the boy will throw money away by giving it to those warriors from the clan, while they themselves can spend this money usefully. And indeed, very soon, Shai approaches this place with his new friend. Li Libo chatters happily, wondering how many bastards he can beat up at once after he finishes all his training. She quietly laughs at him, because even he himself is not sure that he can handle even a couple. One of the robbers jumps out from the gateway towards the guys. Here we meet again. Give me your money. The gang leader laughs nastily. Choose money or life. Lian Shi definitely doesn't intend to give them the money. Hearing this, the leader immediately jumps up and swings his fist. Unexpectedly even for himself, Lian Shi parries this blow with unprecedented ease, hitting the bandit's jaw with his own fist. Shouting insults loudly, the next man also tries to attack Lian Shi, and immediately receives an equally strong blow from the guy. Lian Shi grabs the hair on top of his head with one hand and squeezes tightly. With a sharp movement, he throws the robber right by his hair towards his friends. The beaten man falls right on top of one of the surprised robbers. The next blow falls on him. Lian Shi takes care of enemies with just a few precise moves. What speed! Just 9 moves and the fight is over, Li Libo whispers admiringly under his breath. It seems that Lian Shi himself was surprised at how quickly he defeated several bandits at once. Although he expected his speed to increase, he didn't think it would be that much. Li isn't even sure this guy needs a teacher at all. Lian Shi laughs awkwardly, scratching the back of his head. Now they need to move on so as not to be late for registration. Li Libo looks at the back of the guy leaving with a suspicious, thoughtful look. They arrive at the registration area where they are met by Xian Chang Song. Greetings, senior brother Shan, the boys say in chorus, folding their hands in a greeting gesture. Chan Sung asks them to come with him, so that he can take them to a man who will evaluate their abilities and tell them more about the clan itself. He brings them to their elder brother Hu, who will be their mentor. She is surprised to realize that this is the same person who bought the mystical fish from him. Huchi turns to face them as he hears voices approaching. He, too, immediately recognizes the boy who sold him such a large, healthy fish. Hu-Chi explains to the bewildered Chang Song that he recently used the beneficial properties of the bull bream, which he bought from this guy, for self-improvement. Chang Song laughs, confident that then-brother Hu would definitely be a suitable mentor for Lian Shi. Shi and Li Libo bow in gratitude when they are told that they can spend the night right here tonight. Hu-Chi asks to follow him. Now they will see what the natural talent of each of the newcomers is. Lian Shi is surprised. This is the first time he hears about this. The mentor laughs and explains that this is necessary in order to choose the appropriate cultivation style. In fact, the guys don't even really understand what cultivation is in principle and ask the mentor to tell them at least the very basics. Hu-Chi replies that the warrior's path consists of 4 stages: skin, flesh, bones, and blood. At the skin stage, the body becomes stronger than that of an ox, which significantly increases protection. At the flesh stage, physical strength increases by an incredible amount of times, and lifting even someone heavy will be easier than light. At the bone stage, nothing will hide the internal energy of a person, which will allow splitting stones with bare hands. And finally, at the 5th stage, the cultivator's body will reach the pinnacle of human development. Naturally, no matter how much a person cultivates, the body always has limits. And to overcome them, 2 constant things are needed: techniques and special potions. Lian Shi and Li Libo listen to their teacher with their mouths open. By techniques, Hu-Chi means cultivation methods. For example, in the Yang clan, 3 styles are common, and if everything is done correctly, then any cultivator can understand them. What about potions? Shai immediately asks. Let's imagine that the techniques are a slippery and dangerous ladder, and in order to climb it quickly and safely, you need railings, and these are exactly the potions. For example, the bull bream that the mentor bought from Lian Shi. But now, beginners should not rush so much. They are still at the very beginning of their journey, so they need to concentrate on each new step. Thanking them for the short lecture, Shi asks the mentor to identify their natural talents. Not far from what is happening, several young cultivators are sitting in one of the clan buildings and watching. "You were talking about this guy Zhao-san?" Lu Yangkai asks. In response, he hears an order to take this boy outside the clan's territory. "I'll handle the rest myself," Zhao Heyuan continues. At this time, in the Jiao estate, a servant reports to the master about Lian Shi. He says that the boy is only 15 years old, he is an orphan and the same age as the young master, which means that as a material for extracting the medicine, he is just perfect. If they can catch him, young Master Zhao's condition will improve greatly. Yuaner had been weak since birth, and finding materials for the right age of pearls of immortality was no longer easy for Mr. Zhao. However, this young man is planning to join the Yang clan, and knowing Yang Dongseon's character, it will be very difficult to get to the boy. None of the men conversing notices young Master Jiao, who is hiding around the corner and listening attentively to the conversation. A portrait of Lian Shi falls out of the servant's pocket and the boy picks it up. "I need these pearls of immortality. Anyone who stands in my way will die," he thinks. The guy squeezes the portrait in his hand with all his might, crumpling the paper. Meanwhile, Li Libo was shouting indignantly, shocked that Shi's bone structure was at the highest level, while his was only average. "Maybe I'm just talented," Shu jokes. After inspection, they are sent to the parade ground. There they unexpectedly meet a familiar face. Right in front of them stands Chen Ji Chang, who was also selling mystical fish that time. "What are you even doing here?" Li Libo immediately attacks the guy. It seems that a fight is about to start, and Lian Shi, laughing nervously, tries to separate them. Ji Chang is only 2 years older than him, a capable fisherman, and a good acquaintance of the previous owner of this body. "Brother Ji, have you decided to train too?" Shi asks. He learns that Ji Chang was actually also selling fish to save up for the entrance fee. Shai smiles conciliatorily and asks him to go to the parade ground with them. Surely the instructor should have already started the lesson. And indeed, this is true. The boys join the training on the parade ground and barely make it to the end. Beads of sweat run down their faces, clouding their eyes, and their muscles tremble with intense tension. Finally, the mentor announces a break. Now, all the students can rest, and after lunch, Teacher Lu will continue the training. Lian Shi, Li Libo, and Ji Cheng are sitting exhausted under a nearby tree when other students suddenly approach them and start bullying them. "You smell like fish from a mile away, get out of here!" Lu Yangkai tells them with disgust on his face. If each of the boys paid him 100 fen, then so be it, he would let them stay. Li Libo, the most hot-tempered of their group, immediately jumps up, ready to start a fight. Lian Shi doubts that he has enough strength to deal with these three. Yang Kai continues to mock them. provoking them to fight. After all, he had just recently reached the peak of the skin stage, and it would be good to train. She regrets that they are not in the water now, otherwise he would have easily taught this bully a lesson. Li Libo curses, sensing imminent trouble. Lu Yangkai, what are you doing here? The voice of their savior is heard. If you have nothing to do, go and do a plank for half an hour. The mentor continues to scold the older students. Yang Kai finally manages to say that there is no place for cowards here, and the mentor yells at him again. Only after this does the boy bow to the elder and finally leave. Lily is still furious. The guy actively curses his offenders out loud. She thinks that the situation that happened once again proves that we need to become stronger and very quickly. He warns his friends that he urgently needs to run home for a short while. They didn't even have time to ask why as he quickly ran away. Li and Ji look after him in surprise. She received a danger signal from his pets, so he runs as fast as he can to the pond. Evening comes, but the guy still doesn't come back. Ji is sure he had his reasons for doing so. They start arguing with Li again, but it never comes to blows again. The boys are distracted by some noise, and they all turn their heads in the direction of the sound. Next to them is Yang Kai again, and he is very serious. He is sure that now older brother Hu will definitely not be able to help these boys. Li and Ji screamed in anger upon hearing his words. "I'll crush you both," Yang Kai laughs. Meanwhile, Lianshu had already reached his pond. Sitting on Tahua's back, he slowly swims almost along the very bottom. Chonky and Tahua had almost reached the peak of the skin stage, but nevertheless, something frightened them so much that they called their master. What kind of creature is this? The guy thinks, carefully exploring the area around him. Judging by the tracks he can now see right in front of him, this creature is simply of enormous size. Tawa and Chonky look tense and a little scared, which means this creature is really dangerous. Since the last upgrade, Shi's fusion percentage with the spirit has increased to 11.7%, and he can now control up to 35 liters of water. In addition, the sensitivity radius has also increased to 6 meters, so it has a better sense of the water space. And now the guy sees someone's evil eyes glowing brightly in the darkness right in front of his face. The monster comes into the light, and Shi realizes that it is a crab, but of an incredibly huge size. He also has intelligence, and according to Master Hu, any animal that has passed the skin stage becomes mystical, although it is unlikely that this crab is too strong, because then Chonky and Tahua would not have been able to escape from it so easily. But Shi is still not sure that he can handle it, because he doesn't even have a plan. Of course, he always wanted to become stronger step by step. Bad memories flash before his eyes again. Faces of people flashed by, trying to say something terrible to him and call him a monster. Accidents and dangers have always been part of Lian Shu's path. Any change in life requires risk. Truly significant things often happen by accident, and things that usually make no sense are planned. Shai is not ready to resign himself to fate, and if life gives him a chance, he will definitely grab it. Bai Xinging tried to take that chance away, and now he's dead. "Do you want to take my lotus pond? Let's see who is stronger," Shi says to the monster crab in his mind. Behind him stand the faithful Tahua and Chonky, which gives the guy even more confidence. He gives the command to his pets, and they attack the new monster. Meanwhile, in the Yang Kai clan, he is viciously beating up new disciples. "Where did your friend go?" he asks with a nasty grin. Ji Chang grabs a nearby rock and hits his opponent in the face with all his might. But, unfortunately, the stone breaks into several pieces without causing any harm to the man. Enraged, Yang Kai suddenly stepped on Ji Chang's face as he lay on the ground. "You are digging your own grave," says the man. He orders his henchmen to watch the gate while he has fun with these boys. The cultivators grinned evilly and obeyed. Li Libo, driven to madness by this bullying, furiously attacks the smiling Yang Kai with his fists. The guy doesn't even have time to touch his opponent before the man grabs him by the wrist. With another movement, he sharply twists the other man's arm, twisting it behind his back. "And you like to wag your tongue, right?" He laughs at the defeated guy. Grabbing Ji-chan by the hair, he lifts the boy's head up and thoughtfully says that those cheeky eyes really irritate him. So he'll gouge them out and then see how he trains without them. Li Libo screams in horror at him to stop immediately, but no one is going to listen to him. Ji-chang doesn't even have time to close his eyes when the man brings his fingers to his eye. With a sharp movement, he pierces the guy's eyes, causing him to scream in unbearable pain. Meanwhile, the battle in the pond is no less intense. With its powerful claws, the huge crab easily turns stones into tiny crumbs. He throws stones straight at Lian Shu, but the boy successfully dodges. He tries to strike himself, but for some reason the shell of this monster feels impenetrable. He asks Tahua to try to bite a huge crab, The obedient pet rushes forward and sinks its sharp fangs right into the huge claw. "Control the water flow," Leon Shi shouts and presses his palm to the monster's body. His psyche is overloaded, and the guy again begins to lose control over himself. The crab tries hard to escape from the grip, clicking its huge claws deafeningly loudly on the water. Chonky comes to the rescue, throwing himself at the monster with all his might. The huge crab continues to try to escape and destroys absolutely everything around itself. Before Leon Shi's eyes, he uses his huge claws to turn precious spiritual plants into mush. This makes the guy even more furious. With renewed strength, he rushes to attack the monster. The guy coughs up his own blood, but even this doesn't stop him. The monster throws Shi away from himself, and the boy falls to the bottom. "Well, now you're definitely finished," he thinks, getting back to his feet. Frozen in place, Shi carefully examines the entire body of the monster, trying to pay attention to even the smallest details. After all, this monster must have a weak spot somewhere. The giant crab doesn't intend to give Shi such an opportunity. As if searching for a weak spot, it attacks decisively again. In his mind, the young man calls his pets for help, and they immediately attack the monster again. Despite the difference in size, each of the animals fearlessly tries to somehow help their master defeat this monster. Shi thinks frantically, and finally it dawns on him that no matter what damage threatens it, the monster always instinctively protects its lower part, which means that its belly is its weak spot. The guy has been calculating this move for a very long time. He needs to squeeze the maximum possible amount of water pressure on the handle of the spear, which is not an easy task. With the current amount of psychic energy, the guy will only be able to give 2 twisting turns, but even this is enough to speed up the spear 3 times. The system warns that psychic energy is at a critically low level. The master risks losing control over the pets, so it is necessary to immediately stop the action. But Lian Shi is not going to give up so easily. Despite all the warnings, he grips the spear in his hand more tightly and rushes into a new attack. This time, he knows exactly where and how to strike. For his lotus pond, he is ready to do anything, and will spend his last strength and resources to defeat this monster. "I won!" Shi thinks happily as he manages to land a blow right in the gut. But this blow took away the rest of his already modest strength, so the guy's consciousness slowly begins to slip away. He comes to his senses, already sitting on the surface. He tenderly strokes his pets, who pulled his unconscious body to the shore. His head is splitting. The use of such techniques does not go easily. Noticing something big behind him out of the corner of his eye, the guy turns around. "You pulled out this monstrous crab too?" he asks his pets, amazed. Thinking about how much water essence is in him, a happy smile begins to spread across the guy's face. Tuwa points out something on the monster's body to the inattentive owner. She comes closer and realizes it was a female. He lifts up part of the monstrous body and discovers something resembling caviar inside. He regrets that he was unable to tame this huge crab, but there is still hope, because inside the eggs are her babies. The boy sits down on the ground, lost in thought, trying to figure out if he can tame these little ones too. He makes another cut on his hand to create a bloody binding mark. The young man resolutely presses his bloody palm to one of the eggs. "Did it work?" the guy says quietly, watching the caviar carefully. There is a crunching sound. The shell bursts and a small claw appears. The egg finally breaks and Lian Shi sees a baby, and the system notifies that the owner has tamed the stone crab. Having finished with the binding, Lian Shi decides to immediately fortify himself with the meat of the defeated monster. He devours the delicious tender meat with gusto, carefully monitoring the process of his fusion. Finally, the merger reaches 36.6%. Behind the back of the guy, who is brightly glowing with magical power, blurry silhouettes of animals appear. He screams loudly, clenching his fists with all his might, and it seems as if his body is about to explode from excess strength. Pets watch their owner's transformation without even blinking. Finally, the process ends, and she notices that all his wounds have healed and disappeared. A wonderful miracle, he laughs. Today, he earned a simply enormous amount of water essence, and now he can even feel the energy of his own blood. According to elder brother Hu, at this rate, he will soon be able to surpass the skin stage. The boy then generously distributes the remaining crab meat and eggs to Tahua and Chonky. He decides not to give meat to his new pet, so as not to turn him into a cannibal, which would be too cruel. Now, he is even closer to the peak of the skin stage, and when he finally reaches it, he will become a full-fledged member of the Yang clan, and the Jiao family will never be able to harm him again. Now it's time for Lian Shi to return to morning training. At this time in the Yang Kai clan, he heard a menacing cry of "Enough!" behind him. "Lu Yang Kai, that's enough!" the man who came up continued. This is Elder Lu Xiaohu, and he demands that the man abide by the rules of their clan. In response, Yang Kai asks not to blame him. After all, he was only following young Master Zhao's orders. Tell me, which rules will you follow, the clans or the Zhao families? Yang Kai asks mockingly. Elder Lu remained tensely silent in response. Yang Kai begins to mock the fact that Elder Lu only left the Zhao family a couple of days ago and has already forgotten who his master really is. Where would you be if our master had not given you and your father shelter? The man suddenly stops laughing. He reminds the instantly gloomy elder that his father is still in Jiao Castle. Xiaohu grits his teeth and quietly apologizes to his students because he must protect his family first and foremost. Hearing this, Yang Kai and his henchmen began to laugh out loud. The man's loud laughter is interrupted by a loud spit right in his face. He looks down and sees Ji Cheng laughing quietly. I feel disgusted to look at you, how pathetic you are. The guy whispers quietly with his last bit of strength. Yang Kai calmly wipes someone else's saliva from his cheek. Without knowing mercy, he again presses his dirty boot on the body of the beaten Li Libo, breaking bones. The man gets a perverted pleasure from this process and does not intend to hide it at all. He won't lay a finger on Ji-chan again, but he intends to have a good laugh at his friend. Hearing this, the guy, in rage and despair, shouts at him not to touch Li Libo. Yang Kai is confident that no one will come to their aid and there is no one to intercede. And at this time, behind his back, his henchmen are scattered in all directions from other people's blows. Hearing this noise, Yang Kai suddenly turned around. A silhouette slowly emerges from the cloud of smoke. Finally, Lian Shi is born. He looks at his crippled friends and a cold fury lights up in his eyes. Lian Shi? Ji Cheng called him softly, instantly sensing the change. The guy's body begins to rapidly become enveloped in bright fiery streams of power. I swear I'll knock out every single one of your teeth. Lian Shi growls. At this time, the mentor and his master Yang Dongsun begin to watch them from the roof. Hu Qi blames himself for getting too drunk while celebrating reaching the peak of the blood stage, which is why he was late. But he never imagined that Xiaohu was such a cold-blooded person. The master is sure that Xiaohu, although he seems like that, is actually very kind, but he is held back by too many things. And that is why Xiaohu can never reach the peak of the blood stage, because a warrior without courage is like a lifeless body. Hu Qi wants to help Xu, because he has just joined the clan, and Yang Kai has almost reached the peak of the blood stage and the boy cannot handle him. However, Dongsun asks him to wait a little and not interfere. The blood energy of this boy looks very interesting. Meanwhile, Yang Kai laughs loudly at Lian Shu's promise to knock out all his teeth. But the young man is not going to waste time on unnecessary conversations. He is too angry for that now. So Shu immediately rushes into attack. Yang Kai orders his retinue to capture the impudent small fisherman. The cultivators rush towards the guy, but they fail to grab him. Lian Shu easily dodges all of their blows and attacks. He ducks under the arm of one of the cultivators, simultaneously delivering a powerful punch to the man's jaw. The next enemy immediately attacks the guy, but he too fails. She slams his fist into his face with all his might, sending the other man's blood flying everywhere. Your turn, he says quietly, looking at Yang Kai. The man just laughs in response. Now he will show this impudent boy what a person who has reached the peak of the blood stage is capable of. He rushes into the attack and immediately aims his fist at the boy's face, but he easily dodges the blows and quite successfully lands his own. He slams his fist into the opponent's face, sending Yang Kai flying backwards. But the boy doesn't stop there, continuing to mercilessly beat him on his bloody face. Another blow, and blood, and Yang Kai's teeth sprayed in all directions. Weakling, Lian Shu smirks. This makes the cultivator furious. Spewing out a multitude of dirty curses, he rushes at the guy with renewed vigor, but this time with a knife. Continuing to shout nasty things, he vilely stabs her several times. But at some point, Shu reaches out his hand, stopping him, allowing the weapon to pierce his palm through and through. Now she realizes even more clearly that Yang Kai is truly a dishonest person. Useless, disgusting coward, the guy hisses, swinging his arm to strike. He puts all his strength and fury into this blow, slamming the opponent's face right into the stone, smashing the other person's face against it, and knocking out teeth. Bending down, Lian Shi carefully looks at the frightened face of the defeated enemy. In desperation, he calls for Lu Xiaohu. After all, the man is his mentor, and should not just stand aside while his student is being beaten. But Xiaohu doesn't have time to make any decisions, and Shi doesn't have time to deliver another blow. Master Dongsun appears right in front of them. In a menacing voice, he announces that he is expelling Yang Kai and all those who attacked the disciples with him today from the clan. And Lu Xiaohu, he is waiting for him in the seclusion hall today for a serious talk. Lian Shi looks at the legendary Yang Dong's son with admiration. The man looks at him intently in response with a searching gaze. She thinks that now he will also be kicked out of the clan because he broke the rules right in front of the master. Is this the end? But what happens next knocks all thoughts out of the guy. Would you like to become my personal disciple? Dongsun suddenly asks with a smile. Lian Shi jerks his head up, certain he misheard. Dongsun extends his hand to the boy, helping him to his feet. For the next few days, the entire Yang estate is buzzing like a disturbed beehive. Everyone is discussing the news that Master Yang has taken on a 9th personal disciple. Several girls knock on Lian Shi's door and ask to come in. These ceremonial garments were passed on to them by their elder brothers and sisters. They offer to help the embarrassed boy put them on, but she, embarrassed, convinces them that he can do it himself. When the girls leave, he breathes a sigh of relief. It's been 2 weeks since that fight with Yang Kai. All the boy's wounds healed quickly thanks to Master Yan's treatment. Now Lian Shi is no longer alone, he has a master and many brothers and sisters. It's time for revenge on the Jiao family. Hu Qi was especially impressed by the young cultivator. For the past 2 weeks, he had been telling each of his siblings how amazing it was that a boy who had just joined the clan could defeat a person who was almost at the peak of the skin stage. The master liked this guy at first sight, and the 4th brother, out of a slight feeling of jealousy, makes the most kind jokes about this and about brother Hu Qi. But even despite this, he still gave his new student his tungsten armor. Amidst the laughter and jokes, the students do not immediately notice Lian Shi emerging from his room. Hu Qi notices him first. A little hesitantly, Lian Shi walked out to the 8 disciples, feeling unfamiliar in this outfit. Older brothers and sisters, he tells them with a smile. Lian Shi thanks you for the gifts. The guy bows. However, Liu Gong has not yet given his gift to his new brother. He prepared something special for his younger brother, and it is a tungsten steel ingot. With it, Shai can come to any forge and say what weapon he wants to forge. The guy thanks his brother for the generous gift, and together they head to the master.